Blessings, beloveds. Anastasia with you again today. The moon is still in Aquarius, hence I am still feeling really compelled to do more astrology. So here I am. Today I've decided to talk about Mars and Venus. Now, I have done a couple of videos on relationships in terms of astrology. However, those videos were, I guess you could say, an introduction to certain key things that you would look for in your birth chart, and I just want to follow up on that with some extra things that are really, really important and really key when you're trying to understand the world of relationships in your own life and how and why they work or don't work in the way that they do. And I've said this before, you know, relationships are life, really. We are relating to people all the time on so many different levels. And certainly when it comes to our own personal, private relationships, they are, you know, a really big component of our existence, of our life, of how we connect, how we feel, how we share, how we love, how we have fun, etc. So the main things when we're talking about Mars and Venus, they are the two planets, the two key planets that we look at when we are trying to examine a person's chart from the point of view of relationships. So we're looking at Venus, what sign is she in? So what element is she in? What house is she in? And what aspects does she have to her? Because all those different features are going to give you the story of how Venus works for you. And obviously with all the planets, you know, they all have either a masculine or a feminine component to them. And normally we say that, you know, Venus is a feminine energy, and of course she is. But that does not mean that when we're looking at a male's chart that we disregard Venus. Of course, we look at the male's chart from the point of view of Venus and Mars, and the same in a woman's chart, we're looking at Venus and Mars as well. And we're looking at them on two different levels. The first level is the relationship world. How do those planets interact in your life in terms of how you relate, how you share, how you love, how you give? And that's Venus stuff. And the Mars element is where your drive comes from, where your passions are, your desires, your ability to assert yourself and go for what you want and things like that. That's one level. And obviously the other level is Venus for women is a really important planet, as Mars is for men, because the Venus in a woman's chart shows the woman how she attracts what she wants to attract in her life. So a healthy, strong Venus enables a woman to attract what she is trying to attract into her life. Venus is the magnetic, attractive, or attraction principle. So she is the one that's going to give us that that ability to draw in and attract what we want. Now, you know, she's feminine, so she's a feminine quality in principle. Hence, attracting is drawing in, isn't it? And I spoke about, you know, when I did my last video, and I spoke about the energies that. Well, in terms of the elements, what is inner and what is outer. So Venus is an inner energy, and Mars is what pushes out, because it's how you assert yourself and go and get what you want in life. Venus does it in a very different way, and Mars does it in a very different way. Let's just check in with some real basics again. So when you are wanting to understand the world of relationships for you and how they are working or not working, some people have easier relationships in life. Some people are able to attract and draw relationships into their life quite easily, and some people are not. So, there's variations, of course. I've given two very extreme examples, but of course there are variations. So we're looking at Venus in the sign she's in, therefore what element is she in, the house she's in, the aspect she has, and does she have an aspect to Mars? An aspect basically means when you've got two planets aspecting each other, they're talking to each other. It's like, so if you had an aspect between Mars and Venus in your chart, that means Mars and Venus are talking to each other. Now, the kind of dialogue or conversation they're having is going to be determined through the aspect that they have together. So there are soft aspects and there are hard aspects. And it's literally, as it sounds, softer aspects flowing in nature, and flow in ease, and therefore attract and bring the energy in ease. And the hard aspects are harder. So they can still very much achieve things without a doubt. In fact, probably sometimes more so than the softer aspects, because there's a lot of drive and energy and impulse and a desire to want to make things happen. But there's an underlying inherent conflict that can occur as well, both internally and externally. So if you've got Mars and Venus talking to each other, well, how are they talking to each other? Are they happy or are they in conflict? So if you had Mars trine Venus in your chart, that means Mars and Venus are having a really beautiful dialogue. They're dancing, together, as it were. And if you had a Mars-Venus square, then there's an inherent conflict underlying the principle of the two primary masculine and feminine energies that describe the world of your relationships. So you need to look at Mars and Venus connected in any way, and if they are, how is that the case? And what sort of dialogue are they having together? In addition to that, you need to also explore what other aspects does Venus have in your chart through other planets. So is Venus aspected by Uranus or aspected by Neptune, or any other planet for that matter? But the point is this, that whatever planet is aspecting Venus, that essentially shapes and colours how that Venus is going to emerge and express and manifest within you and within your relationships. So just to give you an example, if you had Venus aspected by Uranus, and let's throw in a hard aspect just to spice things up a bit. Now, Venus is the principle of sharing and attracting and drawing in what one wants, and it's the offering of self through love, and you could even say devotion, really. So throw in Uranus, and what is Uranus all about? It's about freedom and individuality. Does freedom and individuality work in relationships? Yes, it should, but it doesn't always seem to be the case. There's this sense of internal conflict of wanting to be in a relationship, but when the person is in one, they feel suffocated, or they feel trapped, or they feel their freedom is gone. That's classic Venus-Uranus manifestations. Also, it can be really looking for a relationship that's not of the norm, that doesn't fit in that what I would call a fairly illusional model that the world has created and has asked people to conform to this model, and that is that man marries woman, they live happily ever after, they have children, and that's pretty much it. So life doesn't work like that. We all know that. We have different needs, different relationships, different desires, etc. So, you know, a person who's got Venus-Uranus aspected, they are going to more than likely want a relationship that's set up in quite an unorthodox way. So what might that be? You know, an example might be that the person who has the Venus-Uranus, they don't want to live with their partner. They want to, you know, share their life with their partner, but they want their own space, they want their own freedom, so they choose not to live with their partner. That's just one manifestation. There's many others, but I'm just trying to give you an example of when you're looking at Venus in your chart, you start by looking at what sign she's in, then what house she's in, and then what aspect she has, because whatever aspect she has, that's going to modify how she expresses herself, okay? And the same would apply with Mars, except with Mars we're talking about an external, more expressive energy. It's not internal, because Mars is all about independence, assertiveness, energy, drive, life force, willpower. It's how we go and get what we want in the world. You know, it's what gives us that confidence and that drive to be able to go after what we want in life. So a weakened Mars is very, very challenging for a person, because there's a sense that the forces are going against them, as it were. You know, if Mars is saying, well, this is what I want to do and this is how I'm going to do it, and off I go, that's the very natural operation of Mars. It's an ego planet, don't forget, so it's very self-centered. It's I, me. It rules Aries and the first house. So, you know, if Mars is afflicted, when I say afflicted, I mean if it is aspected by planets that are sort of stifling its natural function, or if it's in a house that also stifles its primary function, well then Mars is going to operate very differently. And indeed it does. I've got Mars in the 12th house, so I can tell you all about that. I know how Mars works, you know, when it's in a tough house. And Mars in the 12th is not an easy placement, because the 12th house is the Pisces house, the Neptune house, and what is that? That is the dissolvement of ego. It's the house of transcendence. It's the house of the divine. It's the house of mystical experience to life. And what is Mars? Mars is ego, identity, I want, my willpower, my desires, etc. So you can imagine putting those two together, you're going to get a pretty challenging and tricky Mars to handle. And there's a lot of other implications actually about Mars in the 12th, but I'm not going to go into that now. I just want to stick to the key points that I want to encourage you to be aware of and to be looking at when you're looking at your own chart with regards to Mars, Venus, and relationships. So just backtracking a little bit, Venus is the primary feminine function within a man and a woman, that enables us to attract in our life what we wish to attract. But it's done in a Venusian way. You know, there's nothing harsh about Venus. Venus is a soft, sensual energy. Venus rules the sensual part of life, the sensual delights, anything from eating to physical contact with another being. So all those elements are Venus functions. And as I said earlier, Venus is how we love and how we share and how we want to be appreciated, and what we appreciate and how we appreciate other people as well. So if a female has a Venus that's in detrimental fall, which basically means that she's in a sign that she's not happy in, and she had harsh aspects from, I would say, Saturn, that's not a... Try to refrain from making definitive sort of statements, because, you know, there are ways of working with these energies, but certainly the inherent archetypal emergence of a Venus in detrimental fall aspected by Saturn is not a happy Venus. You know, it's not an easy placement for a woman, especially who is trying to draw and attract things in her life, and men in relationships. It can be quite a harsh internal dialogue that the woman has with herself, because Venus is what we value in life, but it's also what we value within our own selves. So Venus is that principle and function that enables us to listen to other people, but she also asks us to listen to the internal dialogue that we have within ourselves about our own self, so what we value about our own self. So, you know, put Venus in Virgo, which is in her detriment, and Virgo is quite a critical sign. Well, then, you know, this woman with Venus in Virgo can have a really critical internal dialogue about her own self, not feeling really comfortable with the Venusian elements of just drawing and attracting, because she judges herself so harshly. So, you know, things like, oh, well, you know, I don't like the way my body looks, or I don't like the way my eyes look, or I don't like my hands, I don't like my feet, you know, I don't like this, I don't like that, etc. There's a lot of harsh judgments going on, and certainly what happens as a result of that gets projected out onto the relationship and the partner as well. So this person then starts to become judgmental of their partner, quite critical, and of the relationship. So it's not a happy Venus. Now put Venus in Taurus, Libra or Pisces, and she's indeed very, very happy. Venus rules Libra and Taurus, and she's exalted in Pisces, so she's very strong in those signs and produces all the abundance that Venus has to offer. Now that actually, just before I go into something really super important, I just want to mention that when Mars is blocked, now I talked a little bit about this a few minutes ago, but I just want to add a couple of things to that. If Mars is blocked in your chart, natally, through its position, zodiacal position, aspects, house placement, etc., some of the common physical manifestations that occur in terms of physical illnesses are fever, infections, and inflammations. Those three states of disease are a direct result of Mars being blocked. Also, accidents. So car accidents are always a Mars feature, a Mars manifestation. So think about this. If your Mars is blocked, that means your energy is blocked. That means you're not able to express yourself, go for what you want, express your desires, your passion, you know, and physically act towards that. It's like you're debilitated, you know. So Mars needs to assert and exert itself, and if it's not allowed to do that, it becomes very dysfunctional in how it operates. Okay, so there's so much more that I could tell you about Mars and Venus, but this is a fairly basic sort of introduction. And the main thing that I really wanted to get to today is a couple of things. One thing is that what I want you to also be aware of is whatever sign your Venus is in, there is an implication there that the sign that you've been born into with Venus, there's an inherent predisposition of past life qualities that you've brought in, as it were. Okay, so this would have to mean that you would be accepting of past lives and future lives, for that matter. So if you don't believe in reincarnation or past lives, I'm not sure how you can work with astrology, but I'll leave that up to you. So coming in with Venus in Pisces, for example, and I'm using that example because that's the placement of my own Venus, so I know what that feels like, I know what that experience is like. I've been living it for many years. So what I need to look at, or what you would need to look at with whatever sign your Venus is in, what is the opposite sign to your natal Venus? So if you had it in Pisces, the opposite sign is Virgo. And the opposite sign is going to be a key component to helping you understand. It's called a polarity point. So the polarity point enables you to understand what it is you need to learn to integrate in order to overcome some of the predispositions that are fairly psychically entrenched, that may hold you back in some kind of way as well. Okay, so polarity point to Venus is super important. What sign is that? Have a look at that and understand that that sign is something that you need to learn to integrate into your being and your experience this incarnation. Okay. The other thing that I really wanted to mention, which is super important, is so when we're looking at relationships, Mars, Venus, first house, seventh house, and we are also looking at the second house because Venus is the natural ruler of the second house, okay, and it's also the natural ruler of the seventh house. So Venus rules Taurus, Libra, and put it up on my little whiteboard for you. But actually, before I show you this, I just want to also tell you that the other thing, and this comes from evolutionary astrology, which is the work of Jeffrey Wolf Green and some other people as well, and I've got pretty much all his books. I love his work. I think he's just one of the most outstanding astrologers of our time, apart from some other people that are not famous, that I know very well as well. So anyway, a lot of these ideas are coming from his material, and they work because I've been working with this stuff for quite a few years. So the other thing that you need to look at is the 12th house. Now, some people might scratch their head about that and go, okay, well, why am I looking at the 12th house when we're talking about relationships? Well, this is the answer. If Venus is the primary function of how we love and how we share ourselves with another, what's called the higher octave to Venus, which is the transcendental version of Venus, is the planet Neptune. Okay, so what does Neptune rules? It rules Pisces and the 12th house. That's why we actually look at the 12th house. So what does that bring into the mix of relationships? Well, it brings this. When you assess the 12th house and you look at the sign on the 12th house cusp and the ruler of the 12th house cusp, in the same way you would look at your ascendant and your descendant, first house, seventh house, ruler to the first house, ruler to the seventh house. Where are those planets? What signs are they in? And what relationship do they have with each other? What dialogue are they having? Are they dancing, or are they in a boxing match in the ring? Yeah, so 12th house. You're looking at the house and the cusp, as I said, and the planetary ruler. That's going to give you an additional layer to what you're actually looking for in relationships and what you're projecting onto other people and onto your relationships, okay? And what you are projecting and wanting and desiring from that transcendental level, okay? Because, as I said, Venus is how we love, how we share, how we give, and how we receive. But Neptune is the higher transcendent level of Venus in terms of divine love, oneness, source to all love, to all things, to all creation. And we all obviously come from that one source, divine love, that divinity, which actually is expressed and infused through every single one of us anyway. But the trouble is the ego planets almost push us out there to seek this love, this divine love, this mystical love, this ideal love out there. Trying to find it in somebody, trying to find it in a relationship. And so we project the Neptune, Pisces, 12th house onto the partner, onto the relationship, and suddenly they become a god or a goddess. You know, when you first meet somebody and there's, the chemistry's there and you're really drawn to them and really attracted to them, and you're having these great conversations, and intimacy is activated on all these different levels. You're feeling euphoric almost, you're feeling blissed out. There's this incredible connection on all levels, and what feels much better than that? I can't think of much else really, other than music maybe, and dancing for me. So what happens is we project all those idealistic desires and desires that we want. Idealistic, that's what I was looking for. Our ideals, onto the person, onto the relationship. They become a god, a goddess to us. And as I said, beginning, everything, sparks are flying, it's all great. Everyone's happy. Until suddenly the illusion crashes. And all of a sudden we see the person opposite us as a real human being, because that's in fact what they are. Although, of course, they have the divine infused within them, as all of us do. But let's remember that we're living in a world of duality, a physical plane. So we are experiencing these polarities and these dualities consistently on every single level. Okay, so when we project God or goddess onto our partner, it is impossible for that person to live up to that ideal that we have projected onto them. So it's not that they become any different as a relationship unfolds, it's that the illusion erupts, and suddenly you're able to see them very, very clearly, not as a god or a goddess, as it were. So you start to see their flaws, you start to see what you don't like, you start to see what irritates you, etc., etc. Okay, so that's why the 12th house is super important, because the 12th house, whatever sign is there, and its planetary ruler, is going to help you understand what you project onto relationships and onto other people. And I think you can extend that to what we project onto other relationships as well. So not just intimate relationships, but certainly I would think a relationship that is born of that love energy, then that's when you really bring in the 12th house sign and ruler. Okay, so here's just to show you. All right, I've only drawn the houses that are relevant and that you need to be looking at. So what have we got here? You can see the first house, which is ruled by Mars. It's the Aries house. That's the ascendant point. 12th house above it, which I've just spoken about, it's the Pisces house ruled by Neptune. The second house, which is the Taurus house ruled by Venus. And the 7th house, which is the Libran house ruled by Venus as well. So those are the houses that you really focus on when you're looking at relationships. That's 4 houses that you're looking at. It's quite a bit, isn't it? We don't really think about that too much, but we need to. So you start by looking at Mars, Venus. What signs are they in? What elements are they in? Are they talking to each other? Are they not talking to each other? Are they connecting with other planets? What are those other planets? What elements are they in? Is it Saturn? If it's Saturn, then there's some kind of denial, suppression, of love, intimacy, sex, desires, passion. That the sort of sexual desire of Mars is when it's thwarted by Saturn, when it's sort of hammered by Saturn. That can be impotency as well in men, for example. And in women, it can be the when it's Venus on Saturn, it can be just no ability to allow oneself to engage on that deep sexual intimate level. It could be frigidity, for example. Okay, so there's a lot of different things, but I'm just giving you a little taste because I would like you guys to, just to explore this for yourself. Go to astro.com, put your details in, get your chart up. Where's Mars? Where's Venus? What signs? What houses are they in? What aspects do they have? This is the way to learn. You need to start looking at these things, and a lot of you probably already are, and that's great. It's fantastic. Also, don't forget, when you're looking at these things that I've mentioned today, you're looking at them from the point of view of your own chart, okay? But if you want to understand the relationship that you are currently in, then you need to start doing things like synastry astrology and composite chart astrology, which are the two main approaches or techniques that are used to analyze what's happening between you and your partner. So it's looking at your chart, your partner's chart together, and what are the dynamics that are happening. And you're looking at Pluto, you're looking at the South Node, and of course you're looking at that within your own individual chart as well, because South Node is what you've brought in. It's all the crap that you've brought in, or all the good stuff that you've brought in. Either way, you need to move away from that. I talked about this when I did the video on the nodes, and Pluto is always connected to the past and what we need to transform. Pluto is it's a really, really difficult energy, actually, on a lot of different levels. It's not lightweight, it's really heavyweight, and it's very deep experiences relating to death, essentially. And I mean emotional deaths, psychological deaths, spiritual deaths, and certainly the physical death. And I've seen in people's charts when the time has arrived for them to leave this physical body. The main things that you will find and see, and perhaps I should just do a video on this alone. Actually I think I'll do that. But just to not sort of leave you hanging, Pluto, Saturn, 8th house are the main indicators of physical death. Okay. Anyway, that's another story. I just want to show you a book. A lot of you may or may not know this book. Note this book down. This is your Bible. It's your astrological Bible of understanding from A to Z. Every single word you can possibly imagine is in this book, and right next to each word is the associated sign or planet that connects to that thing or that word. Okay, this is so useful, this book, because when you start learning astrology, you know, the basics are the signs, the elements, the qualities, the houses, the aspects. Did I say the planets? The planets, the asteroids, and then that's your basic sort of canvas, which you then need to begin to start integrating and seeing how that all operates together. And then there are all these other dimensions which I haven't even mentioned yet. But in order to really get a feel for and really understand, everyone has a fairly basic understanding of what Mars means, of what Venus means, of what Mercury means, etc., etc., or what Aries means, what Libra means, what Scorpio means, etc., etc. But think about life and everything in life, okay? Everything from cutlery. I don't even know why that came to my head. I think I was looking at my kitchen. From cutlery to pavement to trees to clouds to animals to cars to cosmetics to music, anything. All right, you get my drift. So anything and everything in life is in this book, described through a word. And each word is connected to a planet and a sign. So if you really want to learn your stuff, your astrology, you need to have this book if you don't already have it. Okay. And another fantastic book, if you really want to get relationships, this is what you need. So, Relationships, Our Essential Needs, by the one and only Jeffrey Wolf Green. He is amazing, this man. Written many books, but this is a really fantastic book to really help you understand what I've briefly introduced and touched on here today. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I just want to say thank you to all of you who have subscribed, and to all of you who are watching and letting me know that you're watching, and to those of you who are not letting me know behind the scenes, I thank you as well. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me and engage in what I'm offering. I'm very passionate about astrology. I have been for 20 years. It's a big part of my life. In fact, my greatest loves in life are my father, my cat, astrology, music and dance. They are my greatest loves in life, and I think that's not only in this life. I think I've had these loves through many incarnations, and I know that because I know I've done astrology before. I know I've had a relationship with my father previous to this incarnation, and I even know that I've had my darling little Coco. She's been in my life before too. That's my cat. And I know that I've done dance and music and artistry type stuff previously as well, and that's my Venus in Pisces. And yeah, so anyway, Pisces rules the feet, and dance is from the feet, isn't it? It's also from within. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to say please like and share and subscribe if you actually enjoyed what I'm presenting and offering and sharing. And yeah, I'll be back soon with some more, I don't know, whatever I feel inspired with. I'm not really trying to develop an order. Perhaps it's because I've got Venus in Pisces, and there's no order when it comes to Venus in Pisces. So I'm just going with the flow. Whatever I feel inspired to talk about, I do. Hopefully it's useful, and yeah, thanks for watching. Bye for now.